yeah, very exciting. With New Jersey makes a lot of sense. It does mean that Dawes and Runick will be fighting out for the backup spot. But if Meadows keep a lead on this, he is going to, basically reward the best player of the month. So if Runick does not outperform Dawes, we will not. A lot of depth for us. They added a lot of depth over the last couple of days, and I can't really think what they've got done. We'll see whether or not they're able to get themselves back into contention next season. But adding Petrovic to good depth defense, and I know that is Galveston. Front comes out the Toronto organization. They have signed with the Winnipeg Jets. It is a one-year deal with also the Subaru deal for front. At the NHL level, it pays them $850,000. At the AHL level, it pays them $450,000. So he's pretty well paid, whether it's at the NHL level or the AHL level. Carolina has signed a one-year extension with the Ottawa Senators. A lot of the this, so we'll have to do video about this when we had a one-on-one call today with Fanatics. The group that Fanatics has put together. I've seen the credits about well, Santa being more corporate. Fanatics is not looking for anyone that's just going to come in and tell them how great they are and ask for free crap. They want honest feedback, and I will provide them with that honest feedback. And I think people who watch this channel over the last 10 years know I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. And there are definitely things to be discussed. And of the people who were in this basically, call, a lot of the companies, they really want to improve the product and want to help make it so that it's a good price point and just we want to have that ability to come and make it so that when you go to buy or you go to buy whatever, it's going to say it's going to be successful, look at that it will happen. And, I said basically, I have a lot of my
local legends, long lost friends, and an exercise clean every corner of their own today.
Sometimes the best conversations and topics that we can dive into when it comes to the Vancouver Canucks come from the subreddit. Now, don't get me wrong. I know how I have talked about on the R Canucks stuff, discusses with other Canucks diehards about the team to an intricate level that in which we very rarely dive into here on this channel. I like to maintain that this channel is more so for not necessarily casual fans, but people who just want to check in and see what's going on. Because today, what we're talking about is one of the newest Vancouver Canucks free agent signings in Paul Cotter. A guy who was brought over to Vancouver after spending some time in the Vegas Golden Knights and New Jersey Devils' systems. And asking the question as to whether or not Paul Cotter could be the next Kiefer Sherwood. You see, I am not necessarily a guy who likes to dive too deep into the comparables of it all. I like to do this for prospects because it's very easy for us to get an idea as to who a prospect plays like when we attach a name to it. But for established NHL players, it's a little bit different. However, I actually like this comparison a lot. Paul Cotter and Kiefer Sherwood were both brought into the Vancouver Canucks under similar circumstances, and they both excelled in some of the same things on the ice. We all recognize Kiefer Sherwood, a guy who was sent over to San Jose and who had signed a $5.75 million AAV contract till the end of 2031, was never fit to getting that type of a deal in Vancouver. We understand how much Alvin and Rutherford liked this guy. We understand how much he would have been willing to sign in Vancouver. But at the end of the day, it was a better move for the Canucks to trade him. He's 31 years old, and this was going to be his payday. The reason for that is because Kiefer Sherwood had 17 goals in 44 games to open up the season with the Vancouver Canucks. And while that's impressive in its own right, the fact is Kiefer Sherwood actually stopped scoring goals for a good chunk of the final few weeks of his Vancouver Canucks career. There was a really big period in November and December where Sherwood was cold. And then he got a hat trick against New York, and then he was cold again. Don't get me wrong, Kiefer Sherwood was a fan favorite, a guy who broke the NHL record for draft hits in an NHL season. He came out guns a-blazing to open up 2025-2026 as one of the best goal scorers in the league by the time October finished up. Kiefer Sherwood was shooting at a really high shooting percentage, and he was one of the top goal scorers, but that was never going to last, and the Vancouver Canucks took advantage of that by sending him over to San Jose for some second-round picks. Now, we're taking a look at Paul Cotter, the newest Vancouver Canuck, and asking whether or not he could be the next Kiefer Sherwood. Cotter comes to Vancouver under very similar circumstances to Kiefer, a speedy winger who doesn't shy away from the hit, one who potentially has untapped upside and with a chip on his shoulder after being undervalued or overlooked by his previous organization. Not a bad bet for the Canucks, who will strike gold once again. Now, as we mentioned in yesterday's Paul Cotter's Vancouver video, this is a guy that actually does have a decent history scoring goals. He was a really interesting name for Vegas in the few years that he had spent in that system, getting some power play time unexpectedly, and also scoring some points, whilst providing some very consistent physical tools and physical dominance on the ice. 6'2", 212, and a guy who plays like a pure energy forward should. Paul Cotter got traded to New Jersey for Alexander Holtz in a move that was quickly seen as a pretty big fleecing by the Devils when you consider the fact that Paul Cotter opened up the 24-25 campaign as the league's best goal scorer. He had 4 goals in 4 games, and a 5th goal 3 games later. He was one of the top goal scorers for the span of about 2 weeks at the start of the NHL campaign. And Paul Cotter was the next best thing. He finished off that season with 16 goals and 22 total points in 79 games played. So obviously he fell off too, in the same way Kiefer Sherwood fell off goal scoring wise in his most previously completed season. But Paul Cotter is 5 years younger than Kiefer, and he's coming over to Vancouver with a chip on his shoulder at this $2.15 million AAV mark for a contract that lasts just 1 year long. He'll be in Vancouver, he'll probably do all right, and based on his offensive productivity, which seems to come out in spurts, there is a very real chance Vancouver allows Cotter to grow his value and kills him at the deadline for a pretty decent package of picks or whatever else. Take a look at some of the comments on this Bar Canucks subreddit post. The guy had a shockingly good career shooting percentage at almost 15% and 2 15-plus goal seasons. He feels like a guy who, if you give him more minutes and more opportunity to shoot without a power play too, he might be able to hit 20 goals. It seems like the Canucks have a certain profile that they identified and look like to have. Certainly a good gamble to outplay his contract. Shootouts. So if we pause him at center ice and let him have 3 breakaways a game, he'll be good for 252 goals. So, yeah, you could essentially call him Pavel Bure 2.0. ATB the Cornflake says, I'm a New Jersey Devils fan. I loved Paul Cotter, but he was the ultimate $1 million on 10-cent head player. Top 6 skill, easy. But maybe the lowest hockey IQ I've ever personally witnessed. Doesn't mean he'll be bad for me. Last season was a disaster, but I strongly believe we were playing badly. I just wouldn't expect him to be particularly good at winning his minutes at 5-on-5. However, when you see Cotter get that breakaway, start celebrating because he is absolutely going to score. His hands are nothing short of nasty. He was automatic in the shootout for us. Take care of him in Vancouver. You know who else was really good in the breakaway? Kiefer Sherwood, oddly enough. And it wasn't like, oh, Sherwood was Pavel Datsyuk. He embarrassed goalies all the time. It was like, nah. When Kiefer Sherwood got speed on the breakaway, you don't know what he's going to do. Either he comes in and absolutely rips one from the hash marks and it goes in, or he does a nice little toe triggy around the tee and then goes backhand upstairs on the goalie. Kiefer Sherwood had an arsenal of tricks and he was unafraid to use and rotate throughout when we do get fast breaks in the games that we saw in Vancouver. And it's part of the reason why he was able to score a lot of goals. Not every single one of Keefer Sherwood's 17 goals, 44 games last year, or 19 goals in 78 games last year before that. Not all of them were just like, oh, pure snipes or whatever. Like, nah, he scored a variety of ways. Paul Connor seems to have that skill to finish things tight, especially with his space. So we'll see how that manifests in Vancouver colors this upcoming year. Our question is asked to the Devils fan. Sounds like Paul Connor is an interesting player to watch. Did you ever see him in the playoffs? The Canucks are in a full rebuild right now, and one of the only ways to recruit draft capital is to sign free agents who would be good in the playoffs and flip them with potential contenders at the trade deadline. So the season before last, he played in the playoffs, but the Devils were so injury-riddled that it wouldn't be possible to say anything about his play. But in the regular season, he was much better than he was this past season. Still nothing more than a bottom sixer, but he did his job and did it reasonably well. But I could see the team giving the Canucks a third round pick, maybe the second if he has good season. And if they win any fell above on the side and still, plus ignore the downside. At the end of the day, if it worked for Vegas and it worked for New Jersey, it probably would work for another NHL team, especially if Paul Connor is given a big stage to show off what he can do, in the same way that Keefer Sherwood was given a stage with the Vancouver Canucks this previous campaign. And you just got to take a look at it. There were some games Keefer Sherwood was getting 23 minutes a night, 24 minutes a night in overtime, 21 minutes a night in overtime. Okay, yeah. Into the top 10, and this is where it's really comes down. Because from this point on, every outback, 35 feet in the tank, and that's every time that you have in the tank, it's sticking to the power of the body. The game is pretty blocked, warmed over by the let's get back and the armor for the goal is stubborn. Both you where poison inside. And then slowly, the end of there, we typically both using and the man also saying silence with the mechanically, we could use the heavy armor with a set shape to himself and put a 4 drops over power system space. This goes a couple of within, and it can take point close to the damage is nearby enemies for 5 frames per second. Even when sinking. With things, you can basically just stand by an enemy and stand while they slowly die to poison. That's the kind of reaction. And so what they should say is speed. No other honors against the face of the real. And essentially every minute they can genuinely play stuff. That's how heavy armor wearer is going to get poison damage in the character. Now, here's the game. The damage means that it's the question so poison. Once you can start to go to a strong can, but not include with level first. So it's a pretty big barrier to hit. But in my opinion, the reward definitely makes it worthwhile. Right, I appreciate it for a text. This can help me to assist with my relatives with life where we have to live. Not only just to understand and sense how Spanish is David Winston, even in the voice and in a game of great bruising flat, the word is probably just suddenly becomes in the role. Heading to the last of the young from the next to the public representation that man doing things for God to gather in his role. The start itself allows to say that you have to more than supposed to be second, providing you with hands and distraction, or to take straight up wrecking balls and grab the star every start. So still take with level 75 conjuration camera without having to invest in single second level of conjuration. Again, those of these great motions with conjuration skills really give no such start. The star has to offer the sort of flyers and recharge. You can end the summit with your own button if you request a night to remember. intimate drinking contest which you can find at any time after level 14 by speaking with Sam Jabez, however his name is. Moving on to number 8, which is Dawnbreaker, races made of marine, the races with light, and basically hatred of nature. In a round where no princes level of chaos and affairs, marines can expand apart in a sort of defiance against nature, and turn up the reflection perfect. A flaming sword that sends the dead running at last. Way that makes no sense to me. Anyway, Dawnbreaker is a one-handed sword that only goes to victory at baseline, but its strength is bonus fire damage to every strike, as well as resisting charges that actually reach undead specific effects. Basically, when you kill an undead enemy with it, there's a chance of getting a massive explosion that deals area effect damage and causes a nearby undead to flip, which is then a class drag a 2 into absolute head, and makes it better happen. This is especially useful during the driver investigation story, and if a character feels making flames perfect with destruction tree, damage strength further. Though I will warn that the explosion can be predictable, so be careful using it along with certain items, as it will send us flying in all different directions, and you should potentially lose control of press. Also, because its effects work on undead, if you're a vampire, its effects will work on you, and the explosion could actually kill you, which is less than ideal. You can obtain Dawnbreaker by completing the quest and go to Dawn, until it starts from level 12 onwards, by using the ability to keep them from a random level. Next up, we have the Games of Solar Fire. A spice stone draining weapon displayed with over 3 dominance and statement. It's fair to say that Solar Fire doesn't feel that it's best in movement from a command of one dynamic will and strength, and both draining their own soul upon it. Personally, it's been one and remains to offer a rare, moving conscious role in this season. It is 21 points of damage, 25 points of magic damage, and the ability to track the enemy's soul when the time within 30 seconds of being hit. Now that's a lot of allowing different ranks, but the standard magic recognition idea of taking down both and then scholars aspect takes you to the black star, which is meant to full focus on soldiers. So to stimulate is for example the collection of soldiers with both weaponry charges and on top of which the most and solid space tracks, the privileged tracks. This is particularly good because there's no messing about it. So while that weapon was a bit scale that makes it smell like fire, it's an extremely cool weapon, also like some serious utility and very beginning of the game. You can eliminate by completing the house of horror, a dark and memorable place that you can start by using the visual and it can help you on this. There's 4 basic weapons that I'd say have this great deal of place. And the first of those is the weapon. A first and arm. The Jacob Fritz of deception, strong, and the ebony blade possessed with a spirit and knowledge. This is life, dark, and sounding, that takes people pressure. In the Lord, the Father chooses the blade of any good, the burden of the